I am incredibly hopeful because when I was diagnosed over 10 years ago, there was no such thing as targeted medicine, personalized medicine, targeted therapies, molecular testing. That didn't exist. It was standard chemotherapy, it was radiation, and then if you were lucky enough, maybe you could have surgery. I had the chemotherapy, 6 weeks. I had the radiation to my chest. I had surgery to remove my entire left lung. It's really, I've seen so much in such little time because the targeted therapies, they didn't even exist. It wasn't in the mindset when I was diagnosed. It came 2 years later where all of a sudden they were talking about drugs that could target a specific mutation, that your cancer had mutations that could be targeted. It just opened up the world. I was very fortunate that I was able to go on clinical trials. Please embrace clinical trials, because without clinical trials, there's no advancement in the science. We need clinical trials to get people living longer and longer and longer, the development of new drugs, new hopes, new promises, new frontiers. So I was diagnosed and didn't have really anything left in my back pocket to fight the cancer with. This was really incredible that I found. I had my tissues tested for mutations, and then it's interesting because my mother actually was watching ABC News, World News Tonight, and she came upon a guy who was pretty much on his deathbed, who had lung cancer, who had a very rare mutation, and that mutation was able to be targeted. And so they gave him the medicine. He was on his deathbed. Within 6 weeks, he was out of the hospital. His cancers had shrunk by 2/3, and he was feeling great. So my mom calls me on the phone, and she says, "Michael, you have to get on this drug." I said, "Mom, 4% of lung cancer patients have this." And she said, "Well, give it a try." So anyway, I went to my doctor. We decided that we would go ahead and test for this one mutation. And at the time, it was newly discovered. They had two workers up in Mass General Hospital, 2 lab technicians, and that's all they had. And they couldn't even generate a report. So they would do the test, and then all they could do is call you and say yes or no. I said, I want written confirmation. They couldn't give it to me. Anyway, it turned out that I had this mutation called ALK, and there was a drug for it. I was number 67 in the world on this drug, and it was very successful for me. And I was on it for 4.5 years. My disease melted away, and it was very successful. That was my first real clinical trial. The second clinical trial is when I had spread to my brain, and then this drug that I was on, the first drug that I was on for 4.5 years, doesn't go above the brain. So I went on another drug, and I've been on that drug for 3 years successfully now. So it's created, and now there's next generation drugs. So the key feature, I think, is that I'm not so intent. I became stage 4 when it went to my brain, but I'm not so intent on curing the disease. I'm not sure if that's a realistic possibility, but I'm into managing the disease. So just like we have HIV patients that manage their disease, they're not being cured. They still have the virus, but they have to take medicines. But they can live a normal, healthy existence in managing this disease.